very much. Good morning, everybody. I see we're being very strict on time, so I shall try to be efficient in my presentation. Thank you very much for the invitation. No, it's great to be here. I want to talk a bit about technology trends, risks, and responses, and I want to do it in the following way. A few words about ENISA, who we are. Then we'll look at the trends. We'll have a look at a thing called the threat landscape. Then I'll give a couple of examples, and then I'll finish with what I think are the future challenges. I'll start with this, though, which may be my most important slide. As the European Cybersecurity Agency, the message here is that we do all our work through people like yourselves. So everything is done in partenariat with people out there actually doing the job. And if you compare ENISA to the Commission, the Council, the Parliament, they do the strategic and the policy stuff, and of course we help them. We like to think we get our hands dirty. We work with real operational communities to learn the lessons of implementing things. And we try to pass this back up to our political masters to help them make better policy. And we help to spread best practice at the operating level so that people learn from each other. Now, what are the technology trends we see in Europe at the moment? Well, I've stolen a slide from Gartner because I thought it was quite good. It's a little bit old, but still quite valid. These are pretty much the things we see happening at the moment. None of these keywords will probably surprise you. Big data, sensors, cloud, mobile, natural user interfaces, all very disruptive technologies, all taking us into a world in which the kind of processes and assumptions we use at the moment are changing, and where we'll have to adapt. And incidentally, that will mean that as we go on in the next decade, we will probably have to drastically change the way we look at risk and how we handle it. And I'm going to come back to this. But a few words on the economics of cybersecurity. One of the things that the agency sees and is rather worried about is that security today is an economic barrier. It is stopping us deploying the technologies we need to be deploying to get better. Some slides to demonstrate this. If you look at the European cybersecurity market, well, it's significantly lower proportion of GDP than North America, but higher than the other regions. But we're lagging behind the States. If you look at growth rates, 8% compound annual growth rate across the globe, we are growing at around 7%. So we're behind the curve. In terms of spending of GDP on IT, lower adoption of technology. You'll get the slides afterwards if you want to figure out the direct figures. And we did a recent report on the cost of incidents. I threw this in because it shows some quite nice things. In terms of measuring these things and learning for them, we have a long way to go. We have got some nice lessons on the slide, which I'm not going to read out for you. But the basic lesson we learned here is that when people report on this kind of thing, they use different data, different parameters, different measurements, which means that these reports are not comparable, which means that we really don't have a clue what's going on. That's not good. And that's what ENISA is all about. It's about making things coherent at the European level so that we can say with a high degree of confidence that what is happening in Germany is pretty much the same as what is happening in Cyprus or in France, whatever. So this idea of harmonization is really key to increasing our understanding and moving forward. Now, to help here, we produce a thing called the ENISA Threat Landscape. And the funny thing is, we do absolutely no threat analysis whatsoever. What we do, in line with the way we work, remember, in partnering with our organizations, is we go right the way throughout the globe, and we get everybody else's threat analyses. We try and get as much data as possible, and we put it all together. And we emphasize the stuff that everyone agrees on, and we kick out the stuff where there's substantial or significant difference of opinion. And then, and here's the important part, we map it to specific business domains. So we try to give you a tailor-viewed of the way threats are evolving globally, tailored to your business segment. It's a very interesting document. Everything, by the way, from ENISA is free. It's on our website. Please go and have a look. We're currently releasing about 50 deliverables, all of which contain, believe me, some very interesting information. So as it's free, you can't lose. This one is based on publicly available data. It's got this year, I think, don't quote me, but I think it has over 500 inputs. So it's quite significant. And we'll give you something like this. If you look at the diagram, you see the absolute trends on the left, of course, whether things are going up or down. This is easy to understand. You see the change in ranking, and in a more detailed slide, you will see the same information, but then for mobile computing, critical infrastructure, and a whole range of other things. So we get good echoes from this report. Please take the time to go and have a look at it. I'm going to give you a sneak preview of the 2016 version. It's not published yet, so this is really hot off the press. What are we finding out from this threat analysis? We're calling it the year of cybercrime monetization, which is no surprise, of course. We know that cybercrime is big business. We know that they run industrial processes at least equivalent to what we do in the business world, sometimes better. And we know these people are highly organized. So not surprising, year of cybercrime monetization. We think cybercrime capitalization will reach the level of the second most valuable US company, huge amounts of money. Ransomware families, 175% up. Data breaches, 20% over last year. The first terabyte per second DDoS attack has happened. And, well, you can see the rest, yeah, taking over IT objects. Doesn't mean we're losing the game. Don't forget that the fact that you have more incidents does not necessarily mean that you're measuring the same data. We're also measuring more. So be very careful when using this kind of data. We're not very scientific, not only in NISA, but I think the whole of the industry is not very scientific in the way it treats data. And making predictions on this stuff has been notoriously difficult. Some examples of the work we do, just to show you, they're rather arbitrary examples, which is why I'd like you to go to the website. Smart environments. So take, for example, smart houses. The lesson here is we all know it. Internet of Things is not for tomorrow, it's for today. This stuff is going into your home, and it's not secure at the moment. So we put out a list of recommendations. Not all smart homes are created equally. Multiple design pathways leading to different sort of smart homes. Significant risks on privacy and data protection, economic factors, etc., etc. Yeah? Please, again, have a look at the details because it will affect you now, not tomorrow. Let me leave you with one thought here. If you are paying 50 euros to put a device in your home, you can be using the best cryptography in the world. That is not enough money to secure the keys. Full stop. And I know this because I was doing it for years in business, and we pay a lot of money in the banking environment to protect cryptographic keys. Same sort of study for smart grids. Again, just to give you an idea of the kind of recommendations we come up with. Sometimes they're for big institutions, sometimes they're for member states, sometimes they're for individuals. Securing the Internet of Things. This is probably the biggest challenge facing the global economy at the moment because it's already there, as I've said, and because it's a massive business enabler. So what are the challenges? Capacity-limited devices like smartphones, etc. These very small cost things that are going into your home. Data exchanges all over the place using rather new protocols like Zigbee and Z-Wave, which are not necessarily that secure. Poor regulation on data ownership. Big interaction with physical life. These are cyber-physical systems and could maybe in the future result in injuries or even death. And economic limitations. Threats and risks, many threats, of course. Several IoT manufacturers are not IoT experts. Data collection and processing may be unclear to users, and there could be an impact on citizens' health, safety, and privacy. So we have many studies on this, security and privacy, and we develop expertise to secure IT, looking at things like the evolution of threats, promotion of security, privacy, and good practices, etc. So we're very active in this field, in other words. But we are behind the curve, believe me, and we need to catch up. These are kind of domains we're in. I'll just mention the 216 one on smart cars. You may be surprised to know that the car of tomorrow, and I really mean tomorrow, has 100 million lines of code in there, in components which are coming from a very diverse supply chain. How realistic is it to control this? And a lot of this code, in our opinion, is being downloaded from shareable sites to meet the deadlines. There's no control over it. How do you control that risk? Some recommendations here. Obviously, collaboration on cybersecurity across Europe. Obviously, developing awareness on IoT threats and risks. We need a governance model for cybersecurity. We desperately still need to integrate security in business processes, and I'm now talking about Industry 4.0 and new business processes. The first speaker was also talking about the difference between the old and the new. And the safety versus security issue is quite interesting. The German wings crash illustrated this. The pilot crashed the plane by using a security feature. Think about that. We may see more of this in the future. So, I'm going to sum up with the future challenges. This is more global in scope because I really want to pass a few messages. Training and maintaining adequate skill sets. We don't have enough. Leveraging cybersecurity as a market enabler, I've talked about this. Achieving agile and fast support processes such as standardization and certification, building cybersecurity into the industrial process, Industry 4.0, cybersecurity and safety, and implementing strong privacy and data protection. Thank you very much. I wasn't bad. I met the line.